Good evening. Welcome back into Finnerty. I'm Rob Finnerty. Hope you have your head held a little bit higher today, because you were right, and what we witnessed last night as a country was many things. Donald Trump won more than 300 electoral votes and the popular vote, which is something we haven't seen a Republican do in 20 years. Republicans also won the House and the Senate, meaning Donald Trump has got a mandate, a true mandate. And if you're a Kamala supporter, I'm sorry, but you are just drastically out of touch with the rest of America right now. That is just a fact. The Democratic Party clearly does not get the American people anymore. And I've said this for weeks. What we've seen over the last 4 years is not normal. It's been the Chinese water torture of odd and awful, drip, drip, drip. And yesterday, the American people said a resounding no more. So hold your head high today. I know so many people, myself included, who questioned whether or not we were the crazy ones over the last 4 years. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. You were right, and millions of people agreed with you yesterday that enough was enough. What Donald Trump accomplished last night was the greatest political comeback in U.S. history, and it's not even close. Here's the vice president-elect.
And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
All right, so President Grover Cleveland was the only American president to lose the presidency and then win it back 4 years later. Donald Trump just did the same thing. And last night I heard someone compare Trump's win to Richard Nixon winning in 1968 after losing to John F. Kennedy in 1960 and then losing the California governor's race 2 years later. And I laughed. Grover Cleveland wasn't charged with 91 felonies. No one shot Nixon in the head in Butler, Pennsylvania. What Donald Trump just did was historic on every level. And the funniest part about all this is Democrats wanted to run against Donald Trump, not Ron DeSantis, not somebody else. They wanted Trump to be the candidate, and we learned a lot about this country yesterday. The political resurrection of Donald Trump is something that we've just never seen before. The man the media called Hitler for the past month cobbled together a coalition that's new to the Republican Party and new to American politics. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, Jews, the young, independents. The Republican Party is now, and we can say this, officially the party of the working class. While on the other side, the Democratic Party of today is an empty, hollowed-out husk, a shell of what it once was, a party of coastal elites and their wealthy friends in the media. We'll get to that in a moment. It's the party of George Clooney and Oprah and Taylor Swift and Nancy Pelosi and the fake Indian Elizabeth Warren up in Massachusetts, people who stand for absolutely nothing. And last night was the total rejection of the ruling class in this country. And with no up-and-comers to pin their hopes on in the Democratic Party, the party will be at the mercy of Donald Trump over the next several months. So again, hold your head high today. Think about what Donald Trump went through over the last 4 years. January 6th, the January 6th committee, lawfare, they tried to bankrupt him, discredit him. They went after his family. They tried to take him off the ballot in several states. They tried to put him in jail. They raided his homes. They tried to kill him. They called him a racist, a fascist, a Nazi, all of that garbage. And yet the result will go down as one of the greatest political backfires we've ever seen. At the White House, Joe Biden's legacy, that's something we can talk about now. Joe Biden will now forever, and I hope that the president is watching this right now. Mr. President, your legacy for eternity will be that you gave the White House back to Donald Trump. You will literally hand the keys over on January the 20th. Your presidency will go down as the worst in American history. You will go down as a joke. And I hate to give Democrats advice, but 4 years from now, maybe just an idea, how about holding a primary and let your voters choose the candidate that they want on the top of the ticket? I would also be on the lookout for a Hunter Biden pardon. That's coming down the trough. A final miserable act for a very sad man, Joe Biden. As for Kamala Harris, the vapid, empty billion-dollar candidate, they spent $1 billion to try and get this woman over the finish line. She never answered a single question honestly. At age 60, Still a relatively young woman, her political career is over. No comeback. She will not be the Democratic nominee in 4 years. No going back to California and running for the Senate there or governor or something like that. The party is so embarrassed by what happened yesterday that Kamala will never recover. Kamala will forever be a very embarrassing footnote to history. And Tim Walz, her running mate, the man who lied about his service record, the man who honeymooned in China, how weird is that? The man who thinks that fourth grade boys need tampons in public schools. For the rest of his life, Tim Walz will be the answer to a trivia question that no one ever gets right. Who did Kamala Harris run with in 2024? Anyone? No one will get it. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has now ended the political careers of Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, and you can add Liz Cheney to that list as well. Something tells me that she's not going to be getting a position in the Trump cabinet. The other thing that happened yesterday that's not getting enough attention, in my opinion, is faith, is God, and the role that he played in all of this. If Donald Trump doesn't turn his head ever so slightly in Butler, Pennsylvania, back on July the 13th, yesterday never happens. They say that God works in mysterious ways, that he's not going to walk into your living room and say hi and introduce himself. And I truly believe that something beyond this world was at work yesterday. I felt it yesterday. I feel it right now. Perseverance. A friend of mine, somebody who actually works at Newsmax and hosts a very popular podcast here, lost his sister this summer to cancer after 17 years battling cancer. She was a conservative and a fighter. And before she passed away, she was upset that she wouldn't get to see who won this election. Something tells me that she knows exactly what happened last night. Here's Donald Trump.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason. And that reason was to save our country and to restore America to greatness. And now we are going to fulfill that mission together.
It's really remarkable. What happened last night was a fundamental rejection of the Democratic Party, of leftism, of woke politics. And unless something changes, this is going to continue to happen over and over again. What happened last night was also a complete and total repudiation of the legacy media, CBS, ABC, NBC, MSNBC, of David Muir and Norah O'Donnell, of Joy Reid and Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Last night confirmed what I've been feeling for a long time. We are not fringe. They are fringe. They are completely out of touch with you, the American people, and now, over the next 4 years, the power of independent media, what you're watching right now, will only continue to grow. And the power of the legacy media will never be the same. Think about it like this. If every day for 3 months the media told you that lima beans were great, if every newspaper, if every website, every blog, every local newscast told you that lima beans were the best, eventually you'd probably start to think that lima beans were pretty good, right? Wrong. The media has spent the last 3 months trying to convince you to vote for Kamala Harris, the lima beans candidate, and they failed. You won and the legacy media lost forever. And I can imagine that there was some serious soul searching this morning in the empty hallways over at CNN and ABC. I bet David Muir, who's never seen a mirror that he doesn't love, and Norah O'Donnell struggled to figure out just how to cover what happened last night across this great country. They know it's over. They know they were wrong. But worst of all, they know that the American people not only don't trust them, and that's bad if you work in the media, the American people don't like them. And that's even worse. So what happens next? What happens now? Well, first of all, a lot of people, 3 months from now, less than 3 months, January 21st, they're going to lose their jobs in Washington, and they know it. So start packing. And if you're here illegally, if you're an illegal alien, go home. It's over. To the millions that have crossed the border under Joe and Kamala, the party's over. Good riddance. Let the deportations begin. The war in Ukraine, also going to come to an end, because that's exactly what the American people want. We know that because the American people just told us so yesterday. They voted for this, and as we know well, elections have consequences. Donald Trump could also end up with 52 or 53 seats in the Senate, which would be another mandate, and that means that he gets whatever cabinet he wants. Elon Musk, confirmed. RFK Jr., confirmed. Tulsi Gabbard, confirmed. So expect the best and the brightest. Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals in the White House in January. That's a good thing for all of us. Goodbye, Rachel Levine. Goodbye, Karine Jean-Pierre. See you later, Mayor Pete, Antony Blinken, Merrick Garland, Alejandro Mayorkas, goodbye. We now live in a country where Chuck Schumer is irrelevant. How about that? Donald Trump increased his vote total in 2,300 counties nationwide. We've got 3,000. Almost every county in America, more people voted for Donald Trump than ever before. So hold your head high today. Take a deep breath. What happened last night was miraculous in so many ways, and one thing is official. It is morning once again in America, and the end of our long national nightmare officially happens on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 2025. Joining me now for more on what just happened last night, the shocker, heard round the world, host of the Trish Regan Show. Trish Regan, it is so good to see you.
What a terrific monologue that was. Just so well said. Great to see you as well, Rob.
Thank you so much, Trish. I appreciate it. Take me through, were you surprised at what happened last night? Because I guess one side of me thought, all right, this is what I expected to happen, but I don't know if I ever really believed it. And it did happen.
Well, I think we still had some PTSD, right, from 2020. Very, very different scenario with the mail-in ballots, et cetera. I do, however, credit Lara Trump for some terrific ground game work to get so much in the way of absentee ballots in early. But I think I would just say this. I felt like he should win. I mean, when I'm taking the kids to the local diner and it's like $18.95 for a stack of pancakes, I'm like, I don't know how people do that. Like, I really think inflation had gotten so out of control. And we all feel it. We all see it. You're looking at grocery prices that had gone through the roof, egg prices that had gone through the roof, car insurance that had gone through the roof. And I'm telling you, this stuff matters to people. It matters more than some of these other fringe issues. And I think they were really misguided. I mean, they really dug in, for example, on the transgender sports issue. That's not a home run in the rest of America. But things like inflation, the threat of war, border challenges, these are the issues that people care about. And Rob, he just owned those. Donald Trump has real conviction on these things, and he's been talking about them for decades. I don't think you could have a substantive conversation with Kamala Harris about tariffs, about inflation, about GDP, about employment. I don't think that she really got these things, if you would. She was a great attack dog, right? She knew how to attack. But she didn't know how to have a substantive conversation. America saw through it. I'm impressed that Americans saw through all the hoopla, because there was a heck of a lot of it, as you just pointed out, with all the mainstream networks and all the celebrities and all the rock stars. None of it mattered at the end of the day.
Yeah, I was able to write and you've done this, I was able to write the monologue Monday over the weekend because I knew exactly what I wanted to say as a final touch to the audience before voting yesterday. Today's monologue, you don't write it. It's like Trump. He said, I'm not writing a victory speech because you don't want to jinx it. So today was just my feeling for everything that's gone on. And to your point, from 2020 on, really from 2016 on, I want to ask you about Kamala Harris. Is it over for her, January 20th? Is her political career over? Is she resigned now to book tours at best?
Yeah, I think she's going to, hit the speaking circuit, book tours, that kind of thing. I can't imagine coming back from this. I think in some ways the Democrats feel really burned. Some of them are now like, wait a second, maybe we should have kept Joe after all. I don't think he would have done it for them either. I think that the moral of the story is, you know what? You need good candidates. And if you're going to go up against somebody who is as smart and nimble and hardworking as Donald Trump, you better have a heck of a candidate on the other side. And they didn't primary Joe. They should have, or escorted him out the door early on. So I think the Democrat Party itself has learned its lesson. You can't just throw someone into the slot and think that she's going to work and think the media, saying hip hip hooray is going to do it with the American people. You do have to have things working in your favor. You can't have inflation like we've had. You can't have a border like we've had and expect to get reelected. And, we talk about, are we surprised by this? I thought he was going to win. I didn't know that he would win by this much. I thought it would be far closer. But I loved what you said in the beginning, because you're at least are you in Florida? I mean, at least you're in Florida. I'm up in the Northeast, right? So I'm in blue country. And sometimes I think it's, maybe just me. And I'm like, am I getting more and more and more right as I get older? Is that what's going on? Because
Yeah.
I always considered myself pretty level-headed. But they've gone so far left, Rob. They're just off the reservation. They're way out in left field that now everybody in America is coming back to their senses and saying, we need, I mean, think about it, defund the police. Really? I mean, you need some law and order. There's nothing wrong with saying that.
Yeah, I moved here. I live in Connecticut. I'm in Midtown, but I moved here from Florida. And I put that in there because I feel that way, you know, and for the last 4 years, really since Joe Biden took over, I'm like, wait a second. I have these moments where I'm like, am I crazy? You know, because there are people in my family that are like, you're no, that's not right. And then something like that happens yesterday, and it's in politics, they call it a correction. I'm wondering, just quickly, final question, Trish, do you think that the media and Democrats tack back to the center at least a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I was watching, I played a clip actually on my show today, the Trish Regan show, of Joe Scarborough. And I'm like, is the guy schizophrenic? He actually was talking about how he's a white, conservative Southern male. And the problem nowadays, and it's in Democrat circles as well, is nobody can have real conversations and their kids feel like they can't say what they need to say in school, so nobody's learning. And I'm like, whoa, this is the same guy that 24 hours ago was just telling us that if you were aligned with Trump, you were effectively a Nazi, a racist, you name it, right? Some really terrible, terrible labels that people can't recover from. So I don't know. I guess it's kind of a Machiavellian move, perhaps, on his part. But I do think that you're going to start to see this shift back to the center. Hillary Clinton warned them ages ago, you know, don't double down on some of these issues where you're going on some of these cultural issues. They're not going to fly. And I think they just got proof none of it flies. You know what? At the end of the day, you need accountability. Yeah. It's not all about DEI and let's put a woman who checks a bunch of boxes in the seat and hope that Hollywood can rush her into the Oval Office. It's about putting people that have substance and that have the sort of leadership skills to get stuff done. That's what Americans want.
They want it. Donald Trump, I have a feeling, is going to start delivering it. Some of these things, Trish, could be resolved before Election Day. There's a chance that the war in Ukraine is resolved before Election Day. There's a chance the war in Gaza is resolved before Election Day because our adversaries know that Donald Trump is playing for keeps. And it all starts officially on January the 20th. Trish Regan, great to see you. Thanks so much for being with me.
Rob.
We'll have you back. Next on Finnerty on this Wednesday night. So Donald Trump's decisive victory is just the start of this comeback. We're joined next by former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee, and later, one of the women who played a key role in Trump's landslide win. Could she have a role in the future Trump administration? Sage Steele back with us. All that coming up tonight on Finnerty.
Millions of Americans like you are watching Newsmax for the news they really need to know. And I'm one of them. Each night, watch Newsmax for great shows with Greta Van Susteren, Rob Schmidt. Sunday nights, don't forget to check out my show, Huckabee. It's informative and a lot of fun, just like me. So tune into Newsmax today. It's real news for real people.
I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
When Rosa Parks stepped on that Montgomery, Alabama bus on December 1st, 1955, she didn't set out to make history. She just wanted to get home. Montgomery's segregated buses had divided seating, white passengers in front, colored passengers in the back. When the bus driver needed more seats for his white passengers, he ordered her and 3 others to vacate their seats. The others complied and moved, but Rosa quietly refused and was quickly arrested. Working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, Rosa's arrest sparked a highly effective citywide protest with African Americans boycotting city buses. Rosa's protest and resulting boycott didn't end segregation, but it sparked a movement that ended the racial system, paving the way for a more equal society. You're watching An American Moment.
Welcome back to Finnerty. 1 month ago, this was the cover of Time magazine, claiming that Donald Trump was in big trouble. Here is the cover of Time magazine today. President-elect Donald Trump, again, Time magazine. Grab that one if you see it on a store shelf. In 1997, President Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Comeback, following up his New York Times #1 bestseller, The Art of the Deal. Little did he know at that time that he was authoring his own political story. Trump not only demolished the so-called blue wall yesterday, the same silent majority, that majority that elected Richard Nixon in '68 and then re-elected him in 1972, just did the same thing for Donald Trump. The difference between Nixon and Trump's silent majority was that Donald Trump's was by far the most racially diverse political coalition in U.S. history. Historic. Joining me now for more, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, great to see you. What was special to you about yesterday? Are you still in shock? I am.
I don't know if it's shock, Rob. I'm just in absolute awe of the victory. And the breadth of it is just simply amazing. And part of it was because he carried all those swing states. By the way, congratulations to Newsmax for being the first to call it. All the other networks either were afraid to admit it, couldn't bring themselves to admit it, or they were too timid to admit it. But everybody could see Trump is sweeping this thing.
Yeah, Governor, thank you.
By the way,
I
congratulate you for that.
Governor, thank you so much for saying that. It was, the team was fantastic last night. We called Georgia, we called North Carolina, and obviously I'm a la carte watching everybody else, and everyone was afraid to make the call. And then we called Pennsylvania, and then we called Wisconsin, and Donald Trump's president, and all of a sudden now I've got the stopwatch out, and it's like 45 minutes before the other networks made the call, which is a problem. That is a problem. We did exactly what you're supposed to do. Wrap up election night on election night, and we tried to deliver that to our audience last night.
And you know what? You didn't get burned. Everything that you said was happening, it happened. So I think that's big. But here's what my takeaway of all of last night. Number one, it proved that no matter how many different ways you try to destroy Donald Trump, he just keeps bouncing back. He's the most resilient person I've ever seen in or out of politics or any other profession. That's exactly who America needs to lead this country right now. So he's perfect for the role. But the other thing we saw was a total realignment of our political landscape. The old Republican Party that used to pride themselves on having nice cocktail parties in Georgetown, hanging out with the swells, you know what? Those days are gone. Nobody cares about that. What we care about is jobs for working class Americans, treating people with respect, the people who work with their hands and do jobs that some of us can't do and aren't capable of, whether it's finished carpentry or masonry, electrician, HVAC. We've given dignity back to people who do the hard work that keeps this country going. I'm just thrilled to death to see a party that has brought a real sense of diversity. No longer are we a party that looks at people for their color, their gender, their ethnicity, their religion, their race, none of that. We just say, do you love America? Come join us. We want to build a better America. We don't care anything about any of the externals. If you have a heart for this country, you're welcome in the new Republican Party. That's
I totally
what Donald
agree.
Trump has built.
So well said, Governor. We learned so much about this country yesterday, and I wasn't so sure going in. You never know which way these things are going to go, but it was decisive. Kamala Harris today finally conceded. She waited until about 4:30 this afternoon to deliver her formal concession speech. I guess she called Donald Trump on the phone earlier in the day, and apparently they had a fine conversation. Take a listen to what she had to say and some of the language that she used.
In our nation, We owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States. And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
Governor, what is she really saying right there? That seemed like a message.
I think she's saying, look, I lost, but I'm going to keep fighting. And it's the kind of thing that maybe she was supposed to say in front of an adoring crowd. Quite frankly, she should have said it last night. She shouldn't have let those people sit there, the ones who had just given their all for her. They sacrificed and they served. And she should have at least gone out and said, we don't know the results yet. We'll tell you tomorrow, but I want to look you in the face and thank you. But she waited a day later. But here's the thing. I've given lots of victory speeches, thank goodness. I've given a few concession speeches. They're not fun. They're horrible. But when you make a concession, don't campaign again. Don't relitigate your campaign. Just thank all of the people who helped you. Be gracious to the person who beat you and call it a day. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. Governor Mike Huckabee, appreciate you being with me tonight. Great to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
All right. Next on Finnerty, after the switcheroo at the White House back in July, the media got behind Kamala like we've never seen before. And the American people voted against the legacy media yesterday just as much as they did against Joe and Kamala's vision for America. Keep it here on Finnerty. We'll explain in detail next.
Abraham Lincoln began the